Have you ever felt like the most important part of your life suddenly disappeared? My children moved on. They're building their own lives. And here I am, in a quiet house, asking myself, who am I now when no one needs me anymore? I spent my whole life living for others, never thinking about myself. But today, I'm going to share how one small decision completely changed the way I see my life. And I want you to come with me, because this story might touch the hearts of every woman who's ever forgotten herself. So I want you to ask yourself, have you ever given yourself permission to truly live your life for you? Stay with me, because ahead, you'll see how I reclaimed my life, and the lesson I learned could change yours too. The house didn't become quiet overnight. It happened slowly, so slowly that I didn't notice it at first. One room stopped being used, then another, until one day, I realized the sound I missed the most was my own name being called. Mornings used to begin with movement, doors opening, voices overlapping, life happening all at once. Now, mornings arrive gently, almost cautiously, like they're afraid to disturb me. I stand in the kitchen holding my coffee longer than I need to. Not because it tastes good, but because it gives my hands something to do. There was a time when my hands were always busy packing lunches, folding clothes, wiping spills, fixing problems that weren't even mine to fix. Back then, exhaustion felt like proof that I mattered. Now the sink is empty, the counters are clean, and somehow, that hurts more than the mess ever did. I tell myself this is how it's supposed to be. Children grow, they build lives, they move forward. I'm proud of them, I truly am. But pride doesn't stop the questions that visit me when the house goes quiet. Did I do my job so well that I erased myself in the process? I walk past their old rooms pretending I'm just passing through, but my eyes always pause at the doorways, as if part of me is still waiting for them to return. People say this phase is freedom. They say, now it's your time. But no one tells you how confusing that sounds. When your entire identity was built around being needed. I don't feel lonely in the way people expect. I feel unfinished, like a story that ended its most important chapter without asking what comes next. At night, I sit in the living room with the lights low, listening to the house settle. Every creak, every hum feels louder than it should. And in that quiet, a thought keeps returning one I'm not sure I'm ready to answer yet. If no one needs me tomorrow, who am I supposed to be? When people ask me how I'm doing, I smile and say I'm fine. It's a practice smile, gentle, convincing, safe. But fine is a small word for what I actually feel. I've realized something uncomfortable about myself. I don't know who I am when no one is depending on me. For so long, my worth had a schedule. Someone needed a ride. Someone needed advice. Someone needed me to stay strong when life fell apart. And I did. I stayed strong even when I was tired, even when no one noticed. Somewhere along the way, I stopped asking myself questions. I didn't wonder what I enjoyed or what made me feel alive. Those thoughts felt selfish, unnecessary. Being needed became my identity, and I wore it proudly. Now, the days stretch open in front of me with no instructions, no emergencies, no one calling just to say, can you handle this? At first, I thought this was rest. But rest doesn't make you feel invisible. I look at my reflection sometimes and feel like I'm meeting a stranger. Not because I don't recognize the face, but because I don't recognize the life behind it. I gave my best years without keeping a piece for myself. Not out of regret, out of love. But love doesn't explain the quiet ache that shows up when the world stops asking anything from you. People say women like me are strong, and maybe that's true. But strength doesn't mean you don't get lost. It just means you keep moving even when you don't know where you're going. Some nights, I lie awake thinking about the woman I used to be. The one with opinions, dreams, and plans that didn't revolve around anyone else. I wonder if she's gone for good, or if she's been waiting patiently for me to notice her again. And that question lingers longer than the silence ever did. Who was I before everyone needed me? And is it too late to find her now? The change didn't come with a big announcement. There was no moment where everything suddenly made sense. It began with a small decision, the kind that feels insignificant until you realize it isn't. One afternoon, I found myself standing by the door, keys in my hand, unsure where I was going. There was nowhere I had to be, no one waiting on me, and instead of putting the keys back down, I walked out. I didn't go anywhere important. I didn't have a plan, but for the first time in a long while, my time belonged to me. I sat among strangers and noticed something unexpected. No one knew my past. No one knew who I had been for others. They only saw me as I was in that moment, and somehow, that felt lighter. I listened more than I spoke at first. Old habits don't disappear easily. But inside, something quiet began to wake up curiosity. What do I enjoy when I'm not performing a role? What do I choose when there's no one to disappoint? I realized how often I had said yes out of obligation, not desire. How many times I had put my needs at the bottom of the list and called it love. This time was different. Every small choice felt intentional. Where to sit, when to leave, whether to speak or stay silent. And for the first time, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like permission. I walked home that day noticing things I hadn't before. The warmth of the air, the rhythm of my steps, the sound of my own breathing. Nothing dramatic had changed. My life looked the same from the outside. But inside, a door had opened. Not to a new life, but to a part of myself I had locked away for years. And as I reached my front door, a question followed me in. Soft, honest, and impossible to ignore. If I could choose this once, what else had I been denying myself all along? I didn't lose my children. I gained myself. It's strange how life works. For years, I thought freedom meant being alone. But now I see it's not about being alone. It's about being fully present for yourself. Mornings no longer feel empty. I wake up asking a different question. Not who needs me today, but who do I want to become? And for the first time, I have answers I can trust. Simple answers, small victories, choices that make me smile. I take walks that aren't errands. I explore hobbies that were long forgotten. I sit in coffee shops just to watch the world move around me. And I notice that when I care for myself, life doesn't fall apart. It blooms in ways I never imagined. There's courage in choosing yourself. There's grace in realizing that love doesn't vanish when the role you played ends. It transforms. It reshapes. And suddenly, the house that once felt empty is filled with possibility. I think back to the years I spent giving everything to everyone else. The exhaustion, the quiet ache. I don't regret it. Not one moment. But I understand now that I was not incomplete. I was only waiting. Waiting for permission I never needed. Waiting for the courage to step into the life that had been there all along. Now, when someone asks how I'm doing, I can answer honestly. I am alive. I am whole. I am present in a way I didn't know I could be. And sometimes when the house is quiet, I smile to myself, because the silence no longer feels like absence. It feels like the space I was always meant to fill. And the question I now ask myself isn't about who I am supposed to be. It's about who I want to be next. If you had all the time in the world to choose yourself, what would you do first?